Hi and welcome to the KSI Tech YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we'll be exporting a 2D image from a SketchUp model at scale using Layout. We'll also be covering exporting from SketchUp itself, as SketchUp Make doesn't include Layout as standard. This tutorial is based on a file that's modelled at 1:1, allowing us to scale through SketchUp Layout accurately. If you haven't modelled at 1:1, then please use the Scale tool to scale your model up by the appropriate factor until it's 1:1. This will mean that we don't have to do any complicated calculations later to get our desired scale factor. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up our SketchUp 1:1 model. As you can see, I have a few scenes set up here: a perspective view, a basic floor plan, and a basic section cut. We'll be covering setting up and saving scenes in another tutorial, so keep a lookout for an upcoming video on this. Before I cover exporting directly from SketchUp, I'm going to cover exporting through SketchUp Layout at a set scale, then come back afterwards and cover exporting from SketchUp directly. So if you're following this tutorial on SketchUp Make, feel free to skip ahead to this part of the tutorial. To send this model to SketchUp Layout quickly, we can go to File, Send to Layout. This will open SketchUp Layout, and then ask you for a template for your export to be placed on. We're going to create a high quality A1 size template for our needs. To do this, select the My Templates option on the left hand side of the window. You'll see SketchUp provides a blank template to get us started, so we'll select this and then select Open. With the standard settings applied in this template, it won't be suitable for our needs, so before we do anything else, we're going to change the size of the paper and also the output quality. To do this, open up the File menu and go to Document Setup. In this window, we can now set the size of the paper by going to the Paper section on the left hand menu that appears. In the Paper section here, select your desired paper size from the drop down list. For this tutorial, I'll be using A1. Now we're going to set the output quality in the Rendering Resolution section here. We're going to leave display resolution as normal. Changing this any higher will put extra strain on the PC and most likely lead to crashes with very complex models. You could, however, adjust this to a lower setting if you're experiencing a great deal of lag when working with the model. In order to get a great quality image when we export, we're going to change output resolution to high. Lastly, we're going to go into the Units section on the left hand side and change our length units to millimeters in the drop down box here. You can see now that we've changed our paper size that our viewport is very small on the paper. You can drag this window around using normal move controls as you see here. If you accidentally double click on this and the orbit tool is displayed, then just click outside the paper space to snap back into layout. You can resize the viewport by clicking on the handles on the side of the viewport here. You can also press and hold shift while resizing to preserve the current aspect ratio of the viewport window. Now we have our paper size set up and our viewport correctly sized on our A1 canvas, we can move on to exporting what we see in our viewport. As you may remember from the start of the tutorial, I had some pre-set up scenes of different angles with section cuts as well as a perspective view. We can use these scenes in Layout to quickly snap between these when exporting. Just right click on the viewport, hover your mouse over Scenes, and select the scene you want to see. You can see the contents of the viewport window now shows our section cut. Currently it's showing in a custom scale, so let's look how to snap our view into some preset scales. If we want to see what preset scales are available, and even add some custom scales of our own, we can go to the Edit tab, and then click Preferences. If we click the Scale section on the left hand side, we can see we have a number of preset scales for a number of different units. Scroll down to the bottom to see scale factors for millimeters. We can see that by default, we only have 8 to choose from, but we can add our own. At the bottom of this window, we can create our own scale and add it to the list of available scales. Change both the units you see here to millimeters, and put in your desired scale factor into the box on the right, in the Model section. For example, if you wanted a scale factor of 1 to 75, you'd put 75 in this box, and then click the Add Custom Scale button. To select scale we want to use in the viewport, right click and hover your mouse over Scale. You should now see the bottom of this list and the scale factors for millimeters, as well as any custom scales that you added. You should now have a scaled view of your model ready to be outputted from Layout as an image file. You should avoid resizing the viewport at this point, as it can decenter the model from the view. If this happens, you can just double click on the viewport to enable you to pan, zoom and orbit your view to the correct angle. Or if you're using scenes, you may need to reselect the scene to snap it to the correct view. Remember to check the correct scale is applied before proceeding. You can also export multiple pages at once, so you don't have to reset up your template and document setup. On the menu on the right hand side of the screen, you should see a drop down option for Pages. Here, by clicking the plus icon, we can create another page of the same size as the one we're currently using. Now just copy and paste a viewport from page 1, and you can now select a different view and scale as needed, and export everything all at once. Now we're ready to export from Layout. When exporting from Layout, we recommend exporting to an image file. These are known as raster file types. We can also export to PDF directly from SketchUp Pro. This will make your image a vector type, which will be more resistant to pixelization when resizing, but will have the drawback of changing or removing shadows, textures, backgrounds, text, model details, and transparency as it encodes it into the vector format. Vector images can also be more unpredictable when trying to print, occasionally producing an overly heavy file leading to your print being rejected. If we export as a raster image type, we'll be able to preserve the shadows, textures and model details that we want to show in our presentation, with the drawback that we won't be able to resize the image very much without causing pixelation. Although, if your image is outputted to a scale, resizing is not recommended anyway, as this will change the scale factor of your image. To export your image, select the File menu and go to Export, Images. By default, Layout exports as a PNG file. This is what is recommended, but if you're encountering errors, you could also change this option to be a JPEG if you wished. Select a location and a name for your exports. When you hit OK, Layout will present you the option of choosing which pages are included in the export, as well as the size and resolution of the image file produced. The only value we would recommend changing here is the resolution. Whatever value you put in here should match the resolution of your presentation sheet, which as always we would recommend to be 300 pixels per inch. Click Export, and Layout should now output your chosen pages to the location you specified previously. Now we'll cover exporting from SketchUp itself. Unfortunately, SketchUp doesn't have the same control over resolution or scale as Layout does, so exporting from SketchUp directly is only recommended for purely aesthetic reasons. To export your current view to an image file, go to File, Export, 2D Graphic. This will now give you the option to select the location you want to save the image, as well as the format you wish it to be saved in. As before, an image file like JPEG or PNG is recommended. By default, SketchUp will use the size of the image on your screen measured in pixels. Using this dimension is not recommended, as it will look very poor quality. It's important to bear in mind that the maximum value that can be inserted into either of these boxes is 9999, and the aspect ratio is locked, so it will automatically change the other value to correspond. Therefore, to get a near full A1 sized image at 300 dpi, we will input 9999 into the width selection. This will get us as close as possible to the 300 pixels per inch image at A1 dimensions for use in your presentation, but of course you may put whichever values suit your needs into these boxes. Lastly, make sure the slider at the bottom of the options window is set to best quality. Now click OK and then click Export. You should now have a good quality image exported from SketchUp for use in your presentation. So, thanks for watching this tutorial. Feel free to check out our other videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with videos as they're released. We hope to see you soon, but until then, have a good day.